We are.
Ooh, I'm impressed.
Yay.
Well, I ought to be impressed. I didn't have to have anybody remind me. So,
Uh,
did we say all we needed to say through chapter 6? Hold the healers. I have something for the at the very end of that chapter that I want to return to.
okay.
Um, but is there anything else that anybody has from that
Chapter,
and moving forward?
chapter 6.
So at the very last page of chapter 6, page 126,
Oh, okay.
she asks the question, how do we keep from numbing in a world
Yeah,
drowned in human suffering?
that is huge.
Isn't that a huge question? And she says in the next paragraph, after all these years, I'm certain that the only way to arrive to the sacred circle is in full awareness that one day we too will walk in the direction of the bereaved and brokenhearted.
I think the next sentence is equally as important.
Okay, you read it.
Trust.
And to trust that when we do, there will be someone there to see and hold us, to tenderly release the grief frozen in our bodies, to bring us raspberries and weep with us too.
Yep. When we allow our own embrace our own vulnerability, we can be revitalized. That is huge. And that's not only, I don't think, in death grief,
No, yeah, no.
grief of
Yeah,
loneliness and feeling
yeah.
not enough, feeling
Well, yeah. And then she says, we can be revitalized, remade, renewed, whatever word, not only with greater humility, but also with deeper compassion for ourselves and for those of us whom we share our love. And that, in the world in which we live, where it seems like those in power only wish to be mean and make it more difficult for people like ourselves and others. Um, have they never experienced grief and loss? Have they never experienced brokenheartedness? Or are their hearts so hardened? Are they?
sort of reminds me of, sadly, I'm finishing at the same time Kings and First Kings and Chronicles, and I'm listening, Jeroboam and Rehoboam and all those who said, they were told they knew better, and even Solomon, and yet they still hardened their hearts to having idols and what all the other stuff that they did, that even though they know that they still went on. And of course, the excuse is given they wanted to make their wives happy. But silly. Anyway, but
Oh,
there's
Jane, we can't see you. All I saw was your finger there. Can you pull your camera down a smidgen? There you go.
Yay!
A line across the top in mine that's covering all you guys. I don't know why. Oh, it said okay. All right. Um, this paragraph was so fitting to me because I had a very good friend die recently, and she, according to the family, she said that she didn't want any kind of funeral except something just for the immediate family. Well, this class reunion thing that I've been putting on for a couple of years, there's all those people who have been associating with her, including myself, and we had no way to grieve. So I put one on the other day, and it did help, but it was ridiculous. And being together with other people, it does help to revitalize you uh, because the sympathy is there. They understand what you're going through. And I
and I
was
think part of
really
it,
kind of mad at her.
yeah. Well, I think part of that, and we've had several. Yeah. Oh, yay. In our parish, who have wanted nothing except a private put in the columbarium. And I agree with you, Jane. I think that particularly, maybe it's that they're afraid to show their vulnerability also.
Yeah,
When
it's something on their side, I think, yes.
they're afraid to,
But it's not looking at the other people who have cared about you.
Yeah. Yeah.
it's easy, it's hard to, and they say this, I'll never forget my mom saying it. My uncle died very unexpectedly, Father Bill Phil, and mother was at the visitation. She was crying and all, and the widow was going, "You need to keep it together. You can't do that." And I'm going, and mother's going, "Why?
Yeah. Why not?
Why
Why
can't
not?
I show my?"
Yeah.
I mean, Lord, they'd known him forever,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I
and I think,
that's part of it.
and I think too, as you have said as well, and that this is bigger and broader and wider. It encompasses the grief at the loss of a loved one, of course, and the tragedy therein. And it's bigger and deeper and wider than that. It's the vulnerability that continues to allow a heart to be soft. And that, so as I think about that, those that seem to have hardened hearts and seem to have no compassion, what goes on there? And also, I mean, I think the realization that you and I aren't going to change those people at all. And that in itself is a sad thing. And that, as you've heard me preach before, that hardened hearts kill us from the inside out. And that in and of itself is a tragedy. Not just the tragedy of loss, but the tragedy of the inability to enter into the sacred circle and have compassion for others and for oneself.
There seems to be nothing we can do to change that.
No,
at least.
right. I don't think there is. And that's why all I can do is express sadness at that tragedy.
And
In other words, they're dying before their physical body is dead.
That's right.
What did you say, Anne? Repeat, please.
I said they're dying before your physical body is dead. I know I had someone telling me that I have too soft a heart years ago. Wear it on your sleeve, don't show. And well, that's not me. You all know that. I try to be a little less showing, but
yeah, but what's wrong with showing?
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
because
the
it makes
opposite of that is that we have a whole, apparently, Congress full of people who don't care at all for the sick, the needy, the disabled. To have our senator say that he doesn't think it's the community's responsibility to take care of those who are less fortunate.
I don't think Tammy said that.
No, Tammy did not say that.
That Ron, was that Ron?
That was Ron.
Ron needs to get a kick in the butt. I'll have to write him.
I've written him so many times.
Yeah.
And I've written style, and I get responses that make me wonder if anybody actually read what I wrote.
Probably
Because
not.
they have
Probably
nothing to do with it.
Some poor staffer that's getting paid next to minimum wage, like a friend of mine that has to put something out that's copied a zillion times over.
Avis wanted to jump in. Let her jump in.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think that with sending letters to representatives, they now have, computer bots reading them with, large language models. And so you might as well keep it short, use, simple sentences and keywords that they'll pick up for sure. That's what I do when I write my senators. I don't expect anyone but a computer to read it and give me, but it's unbelievable that an elected official would say that it is not the community's job to care for the indigent and the sick. What the hell? That's just bizarre.
Well, and not even the indigent. When I was swimming this morning and thinking about these cuts in Medicaid, it brought me back to being in the hospital with Rick and talking about dialysis.
Yeah.
And my question was, I don't even understand how that works and I understand what dialysis is, but I don't, does my healthcare pay for that? Who pays for that? 3 visits a week to the dialysis center. And she said, no, once your doctor gives the go on it, it's all paid by Medicaid. So when I'm swimming this morning, I'm thinking, so does that mean that all these people on dialysis?
No, I don't think so.
Why not? That's Medicaid.
Well, hey, we're not on Medicaid in our family, obviously. And I got a nebulizer because my lungs are still complete.
Yeah.
I'm not having Medicare is taking care and
right, Medicare, but they expressly said that dialysis
pay for it.
is Medicaid.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you. Oh, sorry, Avis. Go ahead.
I'm a biostatistician and I'm retired now, but I would dig around in data. And my understanding is that it was a special act of Congress. Everyone with kidney who needs dialysis with kidney failure is covered by a joint effort between Medicaid and Medicare, but it's like 100% covered.
Yeah.
Special deal.
Yeah.
Better deal than if you had a lot of other illnesses, because that specific disease just really touched some people's hearts.
Right, but everything is changing now. That we can't count on anything anymore.
All I can say is thank you, Lord, that I got my new shoulder because that's covered by Medicaid.
How's it going?
So anyway, we don't need to go on about that, although we could. The question and concern that is raised is you and me know how important it is for us and the community, the spheres of influence that we are in, that this idea of humility and compassion is how we approach the world. And I think I think as we move into the next chapter, bear witness, which, every chapter is as great as the last one. But the thing that I really heard her say really loudly is in the beginning of this, on page 129 toward the end. She says, I do believe that we have the opportunity after every struggle to orient toward the blessings. There is always something to learn and some way to grow. Now, you might just call that optimism, which it probably can be categorized with. But that idea, I think that's what new life looks like, is orienting toward the blessings. And it's different from wearing the sweatshirt that says, I am blessed, right? Which I always take offense to. It's like, well, so I'm not? What's that about? What kind of statement is an I am blessed statement? Anyway, that's another conversation as well. This is orienting toward the blessings. So what does that mean to you? What do you think of that?
I think for me, that's a little different because TJ has said something about one of his mantras or says is to say thanks be to God. Is there a difference between the blessing and the thanksgiving that we are thankful for being up, still breathing? Or is that a different kind of blessing?
Well, that's a good question. I would quickly suggest, and I can be wrong, that that Thanksgiving is, to be able to do that, to have that immediate Thanksgiving. And then I think to orient toward the blessings is then to do something about that. Is to be full of the verb then, to act on that Thanksgiving, thanks be to God, I'm up and out. Thanks be to God, I can run and walk and swim and all the things I do. So how do I orient toward that blessing then? What is the verb in which I live? Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we know that Jesus' command to love is active, not it's all about the verb love.
What about doing?
It's about that. And I think that's how I hear her when I read that, to orient toward the blessings.
And I am having the most hard time with that because I haven't been able to do, and you all know I'm a doer. And so I spent 5 days in the hospital. Then I've spent this past week here at home. And I feel like I'm just not, doing what I want. I sent Bruce out to do some of my stuff, but it's very hard.
Are you writing cards?
Me, I always do.
Right. You always
Thank you for the one you sent me.
cards. And it's what you do.
Yeah, that's me.
And that is that. So if you're not out running around, you are connecting with people and
Oh.
spreading love by
Sure.
sending out those gosh darn cards.
Also are giving somebody a job taking care of you.
Well,
Poor
that's
Bruce, I think he's ready to give up his job.
To orient to the blessings. And then she goes on, and I think this is even harder. On page 131, she's talking about, the sadness and loss. And she says, because some are saddled with loss, what did I say, 131? Because some are saddled with loss so profound that the night of suffering never ends.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, and even still there are blessings to be found there. I think we're going to have to hold on tight to that one, because I don't think our darkness is going to lift anytime soon.
Blessing that comes in the night. Dark night of the soul.
Yeah. And even still, there are blessings to be found there.
Decipher them even in the midst of darkness.
Yep.
Is it the blessing of each other?
I mean, I think that's part, I think, yeah.
One of them.
Yeah. And
Oh, I read the cutest book yesterday that has to do with blessings. The first grader, she had a new book that's a gorgeous children's watercolor called Home is Where You Always Are, and it's a children's paraphrase of Psalm 23. And it is just gorgeous. And one little kid, they were talking about their soul, and one little kid points to his throat and says, well, is my soul here? And he's pointing to his, where is my soul? This is six years. But the blessing that gives, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And I didn't dwell on that part too much, but it was If I remember the name of the title, Kathy, it is just gorgeous. But the concept that even in the midst of the darkness that stays that we seem to be in, that we have that blessing.
Yeah.
Is
I'm
my soul here?
I'm a little surprised that she didn't go into the deepest, darkest time of our most recent history, being concentration camps. And Sharon often reminds us about that deep darkness. And
We
you
seem
know,
to be in a deep darkness with the Jewish family right now anyway.
well, and so where are the blessings to be found?
Yeah.
I mean, if we truly believe what she says to us, and if we truly believe what our scripture says to us, what are the blessings to be found in that kind of deep darkness?
What Corrie ten Boom wrote about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right?
What'd you say, Ann?
What Corrie ten Boom wrote about,
Oh.
in her books, and that's been a long time since I've read it. In the camp, in the concentration camp, where she lost her sister, and I'm trying to remember more of what but she went on to say later, that she did find the blessing.
Yeah, yeah,
and shared it the rest of her life.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And even our author here goes on to say, page 136, even the strongest will to live cannot save us from death. And I think that that's what I think that one is so very important for us to always remember, that none of what we do, none of our faith, none of what Jesus did on the cross saves us from dying. That's not what any of this is about. It's about something completely other than that. And I think that's where we get all.
What is other? What is other?
The death of our body.
Yes, it's something other than that. Well, what's your other?
Well, I mean, none of us get out of this life alive.
Right.
So what does it mean to have compassion, to have to be a blessing in the midst of all of that? I mean, it's the difference between the reason I do anything I do is to get a reward, and the reward is somehow not dying. The reward is somehow being free from disease or suffering. I think there's all sorts, or the reward is money and prestige and power.
But Reverend Kathy, what you said is that Jesus didn't save us from the physical death. It's something other than that. And that's what Jane is asking, is what can you say is the other? And I think right now at this moment, I think the answer in what she's talking about is those blessings that can be found are not anything that I can't put my finger on. It's something ineffable that's found when I do start to do something for somebody else. I think I read Viktor Frankl's Search for Meaning such a long time ago that I don't remember what it says, but it says that in the concentration camps, there were people in despair and there were people who were not.
Yeah.
And it's somehow or other, it's not something I can put my finger on. Like, I don't know, when the sun lifts, it's something that I personally don't have any words for.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So to follow Jane's question, what are you thinking that is the other if it's not, being saved from physical death? What else is there that Jesus offers?
Eternal life.
It's for me, it's not, I mean, because I'm not quite sure. I mean, yes, eternal life, there's a good word, but but for me, that's not, I don't have the sense that that's like a forever life.
That
Um,
is
Well,
the
why do we
physical
say
life.
the Apostles' Creed then? And I believe in the resurrection of the body
I
and
don't,
life everlasting. Why do we say that?
I don't, you have to decide that one on your own, why we say that. Because
Well,
I can't,
that's what I believe that we
because
will
I can't answer
eventually.
that question. I mean, I can answer that question in a long, drawn out class that's based on N.T. Wright's book, Surprised by Hope. Because he's got an excellent whole piece on resurrection of the body and what that means and what that looks like. For me and my limited capacity and understanding of what any of this is all about, it is about the fullness of life today. And it's about the not maybe exactly the the opposite of having a hardened heart. Um, it it's the knowledge that the brokenness that is living fully as a human being, which is shared. Jesus shared that the incarnate Word, the being that took on human skin, um, and that I am capable of being a partner in that sort of living fully and completely in love. Um, and beyond that, I don't know. I would be. I mean, I say things like, when I meet Jesus, I've got all sorts of questions to ask. Um, that's true. But again, I can't live my life for the after effects. I have to live my life for what is right now and here.
Which is what Jesus was also saying.
I think so. I think that's what the gospel is.
That we are living eternal life starting now as we accept Jesus and accept his saving force, that we are living it now, not just, yes, I know the pie and that's where so many who have trouble with belief are stuck when they say, well, you're just doing pie in the sky
Mm.
kind of thing. And that, no, it's an eternity that's the now, not yet, right now. I'll be right back, folks.
Yeah, yeah. It's now. It's the now. I mean, yeah, it's the now. It's the now. How do we live in love now? Um, and how are we informed in that work by one another and by Scripture?
I think the Apostles' Creed is meant for a hope, not just taking and living for the future, which is after you're dead and Jesus comes back and blah, blah. But you have to live now, but that's your future and your hope.
Yeah,
Because we all know you're going to die.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. And yeah, again, if you really want to read something great about resurrection of the body, N.T. Wright's got some really good stuff in his book. And he talks about the perfected body, and sort of the wrinkle in time part, that there's that it's not a future thing, but an always thing. Anyway, that's a good one. I think what our job is right in the here and now, and how we live this word as we walk this earth, and in partnership you know, with the God who took on human skin. Yeah, co-conspiring for building the kingdom. What does all that look like? And that work I am finding to be terribly hard in this particular time and place. So, what do I do about that? I look toward my cohort. I look toward my community. I look toward the people who together we can, in fact, live that full and soft-hearted life, even when we know it's going to break our hearts. And I think so. I'm looking on page 138, and she's talking about her friend Marcelo. We don't need to offer the perfect mix of wisdom, consolation, and inspiration. We just need to show up and make space for something holy to flow through us.
Yep. And that takes us right back to people who don't want others to show up, who maybe feel threatened by the vulnerability that involves.
There you go. There you
We just show up, just give a hug. I will tell you, someone has impressed me when Smith died, and Adele allowed her vulnerability. She was to show up, to show that she was frail, that she needed help. And through that, Jane, I think, is aware of it, and maybe Sharon, she has made 100 little worry worms knitted for our missionary to take on the mercy ships to give to children who are scared. And through sharing the vulnerability, she has changed, come back to, we have all been able to open ourselves a little bit better to each other. And I think the more we're able to do it and to say, yes, we mourn with you. Yes. And this whole book is nothing but a book about death. So I'm going to give it to another person. Anyway,
Yeah.
that it is that we are able to grow in our strength by showing our vulnerability.
Mm-hmm. And welcoming.
That doesn't mean putting ourselves down. I think that's a real difference. And maybe that's where people don't want to show it because it says, oh, it shows that I'm weak or I'm making a mistake or something.
Well, and making room, welcoming others and being welcomed into that sacred circle, the circle of holiness, the circle of vulnerability and humility, and being able to walk one direction or the other direction, depending on how one is showing up into that. And yeah, we don't do that well. And I think we have a whole pile of people in this country, especially that for whom are what Anne just described, people that to show that sort of humility and vulnerability is to show weakness. And that's not what they're about. So page 146, she's got as close as we get, I think, to a little bit of a list. So envision the circle of care in the temple courtyard. When your instinct is to avoid or deny, you must not look away.
Mm-hmm.
When you're inclined to false hope or good cheer, choose sincerity and quiet presence. When you think you have the answers, ask a question. the whole idea of this sort of ritualization of care is that we can break this spell of avoidance and denial to find our way to each other, meaningfully and lovingly, even and especially in the dark. I'm not, so I think those three things are so important for us today. When we want to avoid or deny, we must not look away. When we're getting too cheery and optimistic, to choose sincerity and quiet presence. And of course, when we know we have all the answers, it's time to ask some questions.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah, I mean,
That's yeah.
it's exactly, I mean, I don't think any of us has a whole list of answers to what do we do right now? What's our posture right in these days? How do we live through this darkness? I think this is as close as it comes. And I would add to that first one, when your instinct is to avoid or deny, you must not look away. Because my instinct is to avoid and deny, like all the time. I'm just not going to pay attention and maybe it'll just go away. And I have to give myself permission to do that sometimes.
There's a mental health thing also.
Yeah, that it's okay for me to avoid for a while, but not for always. Yeah. Otherwise I'll roll up in a ball and lay on my couch and not go anywhere, say anything yeah.
I've been trying to remind myself for 8 years that there have been people throughout history and still are now who live daily in much darker times than we do.
Yeah.
And we're all in this country still relatively privileged compared to.
Yeah.
So if I think back to the dark times of a government that Jesus lived under, we don't have stories that he sat down and wrote letters to the emperor. He didn't protest in front of Pilate's palace or even King Herod's palace. What he did now, just as you're talking now, it dawns on me, maybe to follow what he did in the face of all of that, which was change what he can do right in front of his face rather than think he's going to overthrow the empire.
Exactly.
And there were people there who were trying to overthrow the empire. It didn't work well for them. So, so I'm trying to ask myself, in a relatively bad darkness that we live in, which is far from the darkest there has ever been, who else has survived this and in what ways?
Yeah. No, I think you're exactly right there. And to ask the question then, what does resistance look like?
Yeah.
And what it looks like Jesus continuing to teach people to love each other.
Right.
That's what resistance looks like.
You have to admit, Mike, that what Jesus did didn't work out so well for him either.
No, but no, not for him personally, but the effect that he had, the ripple effect.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that's still our bottom line, right? When we have, any capacity for that to love, to the commandment to love, I think is yeah, I mean, I think that's the answer to the question, what does resistance look like?
And I don't mean to say that I'm not trying to resist all of that also. And again, there is a new plug from me for the Janesville people. Every Wednesday afternoon at 4:30 in front of Brian Stiles' office, there's a group of us who are demonstrating. And everybody is welcome. And the guy who really started all this says, we have signs, all we need is you.
What
That's
day
I've
is
had,
that?
I've had it's Wednesday afternoon at 4:30. Hang on one second.
Oh, he's probably got a sign for us. Yeah, I mean those are yeah, you do that stuff too, right? You do that stuff too. Yeah, you just make it known, right? There you go. What does resistance look like?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I feel like I'm bearing witness there. I'm not going to change Brian's style. I'm not going to change it, but I'm bearing witness to say there's another way to see all this.
Yeah. No,
What did that sign say? I couldn't see it.
It says resist. And
That's
me
all it says.
personally, I'm mad that the Democratic side of things has let the Republican side of things co-opt the flag. And so I'm making my signs in red, white, and blue.
yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, you know what I'm trying to say here, I think.
Yeah.
But please, if you're inclined to that sort of resistance, come on out on 4:30 at 4:30 on Wednesdays.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rain or shine.
And that's one of the things I miss about being in like Janesville and even in Rapid City when I was in Rapid City is those small communities of resistance happen and form. I haven't found that yet. Avis, maybe you can help me. I haven't found that yet here in Minneapolis.
I'm
Start
surprised.
it.
So
Start it
yeah,
up.
there you go. Okay, start it. We could stand out. We could stand out on the corner of Lindale and 50th, Avis, with signs and
Yeah, but
People will join you.
you've got the kind of representatives that agree
yeah,
with
I mean we do. We have
so you don't have any reason to resist.
Well,
The
You've
first
got
day you might be alone.
Anyway,
can
Jesus'
resist the
example of
weather.
how to deal with this, I think, is better.
yeah. No.
So are we gonna finish on 8 or are we gonna do this one more week?
No, I think I want to be finished. I mean, it's not that I don't love this book, but I do want to
You serious about Genesis? Really?
yeah, I already got my book.
Oh, crumb.
I
I'm getting tired of Old Testament.
want to just point out her chapter
For some people, there is nothing else.
I know that, Sharon.
the
I'm sorry.
epilogue. I want to just let's take a look at the what
On
to say.
chapter 8,
Yeah.
number 1, I think she has a real fondness for Rabbi Nachman of Breslov because she quotes him frequently.
Uh-huh.
But I really like that quote. It's not hard. It's on page 149. It's not hard work to distance yourself from another person. The real work is to draw him close and lift him up.
Yeah.
And man, that is really hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's exactly what I think what happens is that those with whom we have disagreements, we tend to isolate. And she says isolation is impotence. Curiosity is the birthplace of compassion. Seeing one another. Getting proximate. That's Brian Stevenson's whole thesis in his book. What's Brian Stevenson's book's name? It's all
Some
about
kind of mercy.
just mercy.
Yeah.
It's all about getting proximate. So being with the people, being with, and that, Sharon, is exactly what you just said. Transformation happens when we stay at the table, when we don't turn our backs. I mean, I think that's what resistance is too. It's no matter, when the going gets tough and you'd rather just throw in the towel, throw in your napkin and get away from the table. The challenge is to stay at the table and to stay proximate. And how incredibly hard that is to do. So, and she talks about writing a new story, and I mean that we have some old reiterated stories that we keep telling about ourselves, and one of those is the story of Christian nationalism, the stories of manifest destiny. They're all part and parcel of each other. Um, well, it has to be possible to write a new story, and what is that? Um, we hear things like that's not us, this new one big beautiful bill is not us, right? It doesn't take care of the people we want to be taken care of. So how do we write a new story in the midst of that?
Is it a one-on-one thing? Is it, we
Well,
write
I think that's part of it. It's the staying.
one-on-one? I go down and I'm gonna help. Please, God, let me get better, please.
It's
Uh,
staying at the
what is this
table.
program? I'm gonna answer the phones or whatever, do the
Yeah.
gift program, one-on-one. I took sax, they're desperate for sax at Echo. So I sent, please, God, let me get better.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not only that. It's not only the serving piece of it,
The inside.
but it's that most hard place of staying with the one that disagrees with you. And we have all talked about those people in our lives, whether they're our relatives or whether they're our friends. And in the end, it's about staying close and living the blessing that is the verb, that is that love. And they might not change. I mean, there's no guarantee in any of this.
I think one thing that I learned through this book, and maybe this isn't the right answer, I saw the difference, her writing as a Jewish rabbi and someone writing a similar book as a believer in Jesus. And I found here somehow maybe I missed her, I was going to say faith, but not faith. She has faith. I can't quite find the word, but the difference between her outlook and perhaps the outlook of someone who would be writing not as a fundamental, well, yeah, N.T. Wright or what's his face we're going to read next, Peter Enns. I did notice a difference in outlook between that. And on the other hand, I also noticed the combination, the sameness that we are to do what she is doing, be the blessing. It just kind of hit me there. I thought the writing about 152 was interesting, about the story of Hannah and Asher, who was also Jewish. I thought, for instance, on page 153, the top paragraph, where she says the tools of connection have led to what Sherry Turkle says, an erosion of empathy. The convergence of these trends is leading us right to the edge of the abyss. And I think erosion of empathy brings us right back to where where we were talking in the beginning about avoidance, about lack of vulnerability.
Yep.
Being erosion of empathy.
Well, and that's exactly on the other side of being proximate, staying in, staying at the table. the very hardest place to be when you're eating with people that have different all sorts of different views, or the most exciting place to be. Yeah. Well, I had this wonderful conversation when I was in Palm Springs. My friend Kathy is a producer and works for Dick Clark Productions. And over the years, she's made all of these friends who are in that industry. So producers and actors and all of these people. And we went to a play, and I had this reaction to it about I don't know that it was a play about forgiveness, actually. And I had this reaction to it because it felt to me like the forgiveness in that play was transactional. And we all go out to dinner after the play, and I raised that because they all wanted to know. They all knew what I did, and they were all interested in what I thought about that play. And so I said, this is what, and we had the best conversation from all of these different places of lack of no faith and lack of faith, and having been wounded by an evangelical culture. I mean, this and in the end, the staying in at the table part was just absolutely wonderful. I mean, the agreeing and the disagreeing and the not coming to any sort of conclusion. But what happened was that all these people had this really positive interaction with the church.
That's super.
That most of them at that table had walked away from. Anyway, I mean, I think that's part of what our call is to that kind of proximity, even when it's uncomfortable. Okay.
When do you want to start Genesis?
Well, do you want to start? Where is mine? I have not really looked at it yet.
When it needs some time to get it.
It just came for me, and I have not. It's not. I mean, it's heck of a lot less thick than the book of Genesis.
No kidding. E-N-E, I should know how to spell it.
I know of a church where they spent a little over a year studying the book of Genesis.
Yeah.
In their Bible study.
We could. Well, I mean, I think we should, whenever we start, we should at least read that chapter on Genesis from 30,000 feet. I mean, I think that's always when he starts every single one with that piece. Do you want to jump in next week, or do you want to take a week off and jump in the week after that? And are we going all summer? I guess I had not even asked that question. I did update our announcement at Grace Episcopal Church about what we were doing. So
we need to announce.
We might attract.
I mean, I wouldn't mind going if you wouldn't mind going.
No, I don't. I mean, there will be some times when we'll have to postpone
Oh, sure.
because of this or that. But I wouldn't mind.
We always have those.
Yeah. So I saw, if anybody want to do this with me, I think it would be great fun. Pete Enns is guiding a trip through Paul's missionary journeys.
In Israel?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah, well, in
my.
Turkey. In Turkey.
Ah,
Yeah. Yeah, I have it. Where do I have it? I should send it all to you. Yeah, I could be persuaded to do that.
Would love to do it, but that ain't my picture.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's
Would
in
do,
mine
not my
either.
picture either financially.
I've been saving my retirement dollars.
Okay.
what's it gonna be?
Let's see if I can just send it. Paul's Journey Cruise with Pete Enns. It's May of 26. Paul's Journeys. It's through the Episcopal something. 7 nights aboard the Norwegian Viva from someplace Italy to Istanbul, Turkey. I'll send it. I'll put it on our site. But yeah, if anybody's interested, because it's always a little less expensive when you.
Yeah.
have to-
Is it a cruise, basically?
Yeah, I would. What I think it is. What I would probably do is go early and stay late, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll send it to y'all. Okay, so did we decide we're going to wait a week?
I think that when we were talking at Grace about Revelations, I thought that you told them that Genesis would start next week.
I did say that.
But we don't have a huge contingent from Grace,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there wouldn't be too many
Okay.
people to redirect if you wanted
Yeah.
to change.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a lot of work to be the leader, and so then I kind of want to defer to you in terms of scheduling, because I would love to continue, but if we want to take a break, I'm okay with that too.
And do you think you can be ready by next week, or?
If I get the book,
I haven't ordered my book yet.
I haven't either.
They come pretty fast if you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mine came in 2 days.
Yeah, mine did too. Mine came fast. Mike, do you think you'll join us on Genesis and Pete ends?
I don't want to use Amazon.
He's not sure.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I have enjoyed studying Genesis, and I enjoy this group, but I feel like I can't quite make that commitment. I don't know. Is it all right if I drop in from time to time?
It's always
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
I guess
Oh,
I'd rather go until fall.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jane,
I'd
I'll
rather
give you a
quit
call
until
later.
fall.
I'm sorry, Jane, I didn't hear what you said.
I'd rather quit until fall.
Oh, you would rather hold off?
Yes.
Okay. I think the most of the rest of us would wanna continue. But that's okay too, Jane. You can drop and pick her up later and
Or as it goes, huh?
or as it goes, however you want to do it. I mean, we're reading Genesis, so the key is to read Genesis. Right.
We could, if we wanted to, read Genesis and then take a break in the middle of summer,
Yeah. I mean, there's
until fall.
there's
Then
also
we could figure that out later.
we can do. Okay,
Yeah.
well, for right now, we're going to start with Genesis next week. If you have the book, read through that chapter on the from 30, I think it's the introduction. I don't know if it's actually chapter 1.
Genesis from 30,000 feet is chapter 2.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, so let's do that. Read everything through chapter 2. Okay?
Okay, good luck with that. I'll see you. Take
Okay.
care, everybody. Have a good
We'll see you down.
Memorial Day.
Good to see y'all.
Bye.
Good weekend.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
thank
Bye.
you for coming. It was so good to see you. And maybe I'll see you Wednesday afternoon.
See ya.
Bye.
Wait. Feel free to drive by, because a lot of these signs say things like honk for immigrants and honk for decency. So just drive by and honk your horn real loud. That's part of the fun.
Okay.
Geographically,
Sorry?
where I'm in South Minneapolis. Where are you?
Janesville.
Okay.
Southeast Wisconsin.
So you
Seat
could come visit us, Avis.
Yeah, please.
of some Republican strongholds down there.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, see y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.